Don't you just hate that sinking feeling when it's time to get off the ship? Well, why not stay on board? This is Ralph Grizzle with a special report on back-to-back cruises. I wrote about back-to-back cruises in the August issue of Hemispheres magazine. That's the award-winning in-flight for United Airlines. In this broadcast, I go a little more into detail about back-to-back cruises. Back-to-backs are cruises where you don't get off the ship. Well, eventually you get off, of course, but the idea is that you combine two or more cruises into one extended voyage. There are lots of reasons to do this, including special savings for combining two cruises. Or perhaps the biggest reason is that 7 days just isn't enough.
I fully believe that back-to-back cruises are great because once you check in the first day on a cruise, that first day is wasted. If it's a 7-day cruise, by the 5th or 6th day, you're getting notices about getting off the ship, and then you're packing and getting off the ship, so it makes it just seem pretty much like a 5-day vacation rather than a 7-day. With the back-to-back, you get a little more time to relax and actually enjoy it.
That's Mary Ellsworth, a cruise consultant at Seattle-based Cruise Specialist. Mary says there are cruises that are better suited for back-to-backs.
To me, anytime you have to fly a long distance, so European cruises are great for back-to-backs. South America, if you're leaving out of the U.S., it's not as important. It just, depends on how much travel time you have to take to get somewhere in the first place.
After flying to Europe this year, I did an incredible series of back-to-backs, hopping from one ship to another, to another, to another. That's 4 ships for those of you who may have lost count, and it's not a bad way to cruise back-to-back. I cruised for more than 30 consecutive days on ships ranging from 110 passengers to more than 3,000. My experiences were as varied as the ships themselves. I met a fair number of people who were staying on board for back-to-back cruises. Jim Moskos and his wife Maria often booked back-to-back. As others were disembarking Seadream 2 in Nice, France, the Moskos were staying on board for a second week.
Well, I booked the 2 contiguous weeks to begin with, and it was I've cruised on Seadream before, and 1 week, frankly, is just not long enough. I mean, it's a wonderful experience, but you get a little bit of a separation anxiety at the end of the first week, and 2 weeks. Actually, this will be the first time it's 2 weeks. I've done 11 days. It's just so much nicer because you just chill out on the last week and kind of wind down slowly, and it's terrific.
Jim says he could have combined a cruise with a land tour to make a 2-week vacation, but cruises have a distinct advantage in that you don't have to battle your luggage.
I've certainly done both, and it's lovely to stay in beautiful hotels and move around. But just moving your baggage around and having to worry about the sort of connections and the travel really adds an element of stress when you don't have a lot of vacation. You're busy professional people. It's nice just to have that smooth flow, and that's terrific.
Cruise lines have designed their itineraries with back-to-backs in mind. You typically combine 2 or more cruises without repeating any ports of call.
We have the availability with the system and with the schedule to offer a second week with various ports in different areas of the world that we can travel. So, for example, we're starting this voyage in Spain, in Barcelona. We're going to Meaux in France. We're going to be in a few different Port of France in the south of France, going to Italy, and then ending up in Nice, which is a fabulous city as well, which has a lot to offer. And then you are by the border of Italy, and next cruise we're going southern to Italy as well. So we're going to discover, or the guests are going to discover, the French Riviera and the Italian Riviera within 2 weeks, with every single day a different ports of call. And that's pretty interesting. This is why people love cruising, because they come with a suitcase, they just unpack on the first day, but they see all these beautiful places along the way.
And even longer cruises can be combined to create back-to-backs. Greg Michael, president of Crystal Cruises, says that even with an average 12-day cruise length in the Mediterranean, people still combine.
We find a lot of guests. Our average cruise length is just over 11 days. Our average cruise length in the Mediterranean is 12 days, but we find a lot of our guests want to have a longer experience. So what we try to do is build itineraries that are interesting for the individual, and that's the majority of our guests, would take an 11 or 12-day cruise. However, there are those guests that want to extend, and they do take the back-to-back. So we want to have itineraries where we're not repeating ports in consecutive cruises. So we work hard at having interesting itineraries, and yet those that don't repeat themselves so much, and it affords a longer cruise for those people that have the time to enjoy it.
Make the time to enjoy your own back-to-back cruise. After all, if you've gone to the time and trouble to get there, why not extend your time at sea? Particularly in those far-flung destinations like Europe, South America, the South Pacific, and Asia. I hope I've given you a little insight on how to avoid that sinking feeling at the end of your cruise. It all boils down to this: when your cruise ends, stay on board. This is Ralph Grizzle. Thanks for tuning in.